Hey everybody, welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest. I'm your host, Charlie Behrens, and we are brought to you by Jolly Good Soda. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Cripescast. Folks, today we have a very special guest. If you've seen Impractical Jokers, you know him. He's doing a whole stand-up tour now, Joe Gatto, just in Milwaukee. Very funny guy, and just an honor to talk to him, being someone who grew up kind of watching Impractical Jokers and always being impressed on the stuff they can pull off. We get into the weeds a little bit. We even incorporate some of your questions for him, and a super fun interview. Joining me in this intro is the fearless executive producer of the Cripescast, Colleen Maraca. Colleen, we got some tour dates coming up, and those, I know we got Vegas, obviously, Kansas. What else is cooking?
We have shows in Reading, is PA, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Over there in Pennsylvania, yeah.
Yeah, we have Las Vegas on October 8th. Then we have a little leg of Kansas, Missouri, Indiana on October 12th, Wichita, Kansas, October 13th, Kansas City, Missouri on the 14th. We got Springfield, Missouri on the 16th. We've got 15th. We've got Evansville, Indiana. And then we actually just added an early show in Rochester, Minnesota on October 21st. So October's got a lot of
bunch
dates.
of them.
Yeah.
A lot of dates in October. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. So if you want to see the live stand-up show, just had a lot of fun in Chicago this past weekend, playing the Den. We did a few shows there. And then I got to go to the Packers-Bears game and watch the Packers win, watch Jordan Love's first touchdown pass of the regular season. It was awesome. And the Bears, Colleen, unfortunately, they still suck. Colleen is not a Bears fan.
I'm from... Yeah, I don't really have any affiliations.
Cubs fan, though.
I just like being controversial. So when I was with all my Bears fans, like family this weekend, I was like, go Pack, go. And they're like they just were getting pissed at me. I just like to say stuff.
No,
to
you're
piss people off.
one of those. You know, Miles is that way as well.
Yeah.
Miles being from Fargo, they didn't really have a football team, so he would always, and the Vikings were closest, so he would just be a contrarian. So you're one of those sort of saboteur, not really football fans, but just someone who gets in the weeds.
Yeah, I was born in Chicago, grew up in Minnesota, and then I live in Wisconsin for the past however many years. So it's like, and then
you're
my
confused.
And then, yeah, exactly. And my mom's a Browns fan because she's from Ohio. So it's like, there's no, the only thing, I don't really care as long as like there's a good tailgate. That's all I really care about.
Okay. In it for the drinking. My executive producer.
That and the Instagram picture. Where can I sit center field or where can I sit on the 50-yard line to look really cool? I will be there. Yeah. You got me.
Yeah. You are the worst sports fan. I love it.
I'm experiential. Okay. I like the experience. Okay.
Well, anyways, the game was super fun. I went with Don, who's and his son Alex, and Don promotes some of my shows. And oh man, I will say this, being a Packers fan in Soldier Field, at first the Bears were looking good, and by at first I mean for like 2 plays, and then so I was starting to I was talking a little smack. If the Packers are down, it's easier to talk smack, because they're down. But then when they're winning, then I started talking a little bit more smack. But when they really started to kill them and it was really looking sad for the Bears, I had to tone it down. I had to, because my Midwest started, like, these people were not happy. The Bears fans, at least in the general vicinity of where I was sitting, they thought they were going to have a great season. They actually thought it was going to be a winner. And as it turns out, looking like a very typical Bears season. But sorry to all the Bears fans in advance. I just can't change it. Packers fan at heart. Anyways, that being said, I think we should just hop into it, get into my conversation with Joe. And quick reminder, folks, if you're looking for any merchandise, any show tickets, our Patreon. Just go to cripescast.com. It is all linked up there for you. Okay, and without further ado, here is my conversation with Joe Gatto. How you been?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Fresh out of Milwaukee, actually. I had the show this weekend. Yeah. It was great there.
How was it?
Oh, so great. I love that town, man. Always good crowds, good shopping down to the Third Ward, hanging out, got some good food. Yeah.
Nice. You did some shopping down there. Where'd you go?
I love it. One of my favorite stores is down there. I think it's Milford. Is that the name of it? I think it's called Milford.
Oh,
it's the men's shop. Yeah, right down there by the park. And when I walked out of the park, it was so weird. I walked out of the park and there was this like class that's sitting in the park around and they're all drawing. It was an art class. One guy sitting in the middle, like on the rotunda, and then everybody's just seated around, all the students. And one girl recognized me and goes, Joe. And I look, I was like, hey, and she goes, can I get a picture? And the whole class was like, what? And she was like, it's Joe. And I was like, and I walked over, I was like, yeah. And they're in the middle of class. And the teacher goes, all right, let's just get a class picture. So I took a class picture with these art students that half of them didn't even know who I was. It was very funny.
Do you get that a lot?
Yeah, I do. I get, it's funny because like I look familiar, but not exactly like they don't know exactly where they know me from. I kind of
right. So you kind of get that side, I think.
Yeah, you're the guy, are you? Who's this guy? This guy, and then you always get the one person that's like, I don't know you. I'm sorry. I'm like, don't be sorry. It's okay. You don't have to know me.
Yeah, you don't have to apologize for that. It's such a weird thing. I feel like sometimes it's, if you're in that position. I was talking to a buddy of mine who. He used to get recognized like all the time, and then his kind of thing started to fade a little bit. So he was complaining about when he got recognized all the time. And then as soon as that problem was solved, he was like, my career's ending, So I mean,
it's a weird he's got one you have like people forgot about me. Nobody loves me. Oh, sure. I'll take a picture.
Yeah. It's just where you're standing out there kind of looking around, hoping someone notices you.
So we have fun when we go shopping. Like I'll be with my friends and whatnot. And like, if I want to like see if I can get, like, if we're not getting seated at a table, let's say like quickly, like I'll walk in and if I have like sunglasses on, I'll always do like a big reveal. Like I'll walk in and I'll just go up to the hostess stand and pretend I'm looking. I'll be like, what is oh, hey, I'm sorry. No, I'm just looking at the menu. This is the and I just wait. And if somebody wants to take a picture with me, I'll pull them in front of the host stand. I'm like, oh, sorry, this is happening. I'm getting flooded. Could we please get seated? And they're like, oh, who are you? Table for three. Just please help us.
What is kind of I guess first I just want to talk real quick about Milwaukee. How many times have you been over to Milwaukee, and do you have any like weird audience interactions? Because I like to ask that sometimes if buddies of mine who have done Milwaukee shows, because for whatever reason, there's always seems to be something that comes out of Milwaukee that's a little goofy. Any experience with that, or Wisconsin more broadly?
Well, I will say that I did my first stand-up act ever solo in Appleton, Wisconsin. I did my first act in January of did the Skyline in January of 22. It was my first ever. I was with my boy Steve Byrne, and my friend, one other comedian, Jiggy, and we did the show. And I did my first solo stand-up set, and it was unbelievable. But it was Saturday night, January, Green Bay. At my Sunday night show, the Green Bay Packers had a game. There was a snowstorm. They lost. People came in and were just absolutely miserable.
That is.
And it was
like the worst time to do a show.
I was like, this is my life. Now I'm in trouble. But the crowds were great, man. It was really fun. Sold out shows, like really nice. That club's really great. And but it was just funny that my first thing is there. But I always say like it was the whitest crowd I've ever seen in my life, like zero diversity. And I say, and I always make the joke. It was like I jumped into a bowl of milk and I was talking to marshmallows. Like that's how white the crowd was. But yeah, it was a really weird weekend. It was a very interesting weekend for me because I was just getting into the foray of, being on stage by myself in a stand-up format and all that. But it was good. I mean, and like I said, like I've been through Milwaukee a bunch. We played there at least twice with the boys, maybe even 3 times. And then I've been there solo once to Milwaukee. And then I've been through Appleton. And it's just always, it's a good state for me. It's a good crowds all the time.
Yeah, yeah. What is like? So, what inspired sort of the transition into stand up for you?
So I had to, I had a change in situation in my personal life, and I had to figure it out. So I had to take a step away, and things happened, and I was like, okay, what am I going to do here to pay the bills? And I also,
Yeah.
live to make people laugh. Comedy is a love of mine. I was like, what can I do? So I had to talk with my team, and they're like, well, you're a live performer. You've been performing live since '99, So they're like, why don't you
Right.
get up in front of the crowd and try stand up? And I was like, okay. I was like, how does that really work? And I got some stand up friends of mine, just hashed out some talking. And I always, in the formats we did with the show, it was kind of like when we did the live show with the boys, which I toured, 6 years, 7 years with them in these arenas and whatnot. It was just like basically everybody like told a story, and then you chimed in on everybody else's story and whatnot, but everybody even had a chunk. So I was like, okay, well, I have that technique down to being able to tell a story. And so my sets are really just like storytelling, because I've had such a crazy, crazy life at this point, crazy 47 years. So I just dove in. I was like, okay, what stories are fun to tell? And, what can I tell about my friendship with the guys that you don't see on TV? And I just had so many stories of just like our friendship and things. And then it opened up more into like when I started about, parenting and my dog rescue and all this stuff. So the show quickly evolved from this Skyline Comedy Club show. Within 3 months, I was doing theaters because I had this bigger show, and so many people wanted to come out and see me. So it was just like I evolved, and I was like, all right, I got to put together a good hour here. And I'm pretty happy with the hour that I got, with the product. It wasn't just like, I'm like, oh, all right, I got to go out here to pay the bills. But then I was like, oh, I'm actually enjoying this. This is fun. People are liking the show. So I naturally started a new path of, oh, okay, this is another way I can entertain besides TV, movie, or live performance with a group. Let's try stand up. And I've really, really enjoyed it. So that's basically the roadmap to it.
And from a guy with like you with an improv background, like what sort of your career based a lot off of improv, like what kind of elements with stand up does improv sort of add a new dynamic to, and what is it kind of not helpful in some other ways?
Yeah, in the beginning it was helpful because I'm not afraid to try stuff on stage as I'm building my hour, right? So if like I felt like something hit, or I felt something with a joke and I just went with it, I was like, you know what, this might be funny. Let me try to talk about this. And I would just evolve the story. And then when I would see what hits, I would go, But the biggest thing for me is when I got to a theater stage, like I'm very, as you know, I'm very physical. Like I'm a physical comedian. I like to be able to move around, and it's like a stage is more comfortable for me because I have more room. Like in these comedy clubs, I was like people are right on you. Like I'm kind of like, it was kind of harder for me to develop. So I think I really like, with the room, I kind of, of a bigger stage, I think I actually got better and, blossomed, if you will, because I was like, I'm like a panther up there. I don't stop moving. I just like, that's
just
a kind
crawling.
I'm just rolling around like, and I like to, see that kind of stuff. So it was interesting for me. I think the improv in the beginning gave me the confidence just to be like, I'm going to try to talk about this, or I see this guy, let me do some crowd work with that and whatnot. Cause we did crowd work in the live shows too. But the big thing with the live shows with the guys was it was, 4 people. You only had to be 25% of the funny. If you try something that doesn't work, somebody's got your back, so it was like barely failed, with when you're up there with your best friends that are funny and you're funny together. So that was a little bit of the transition. I would say the thing that hurt me the most was I'm not good at memorizing. I'm not good at like repetition of it. So in the beginning, like when I knew I was telling my stories, they were a little static, because I'm trying to remember and not really performing it, if that makes sense,
Totally makes sense.
Yeah. So and then I was like, you know what, let me just embrace it and just talk about it. Remember what I want to hit, do it a little free form. And then it just flowed. So I think I had to get over that hump naturally.
Yeah. I mean, did you do a thing where like, sort of your punchline to think you're landing on, and then just saying that a bunch to get it on the tongue, get that muscle memory, and then
and the flip of that too. The flip of that too was like, if I said something that I thought was funny and I was like, I probably have something funnier here, I'm not going to say that punchline. Let me say something else. And I won't think about it till I get on stage. And that's how I found a lot of my stuff. And I was like, that's the one. And then I'd remember it. And then I would incorporate that punchline. Like a lot of my punchlines, changed within months of, because some was funny, but some was funnier. So.
And is this because since you do have that sort of improv deal, I mean, you probably do stuff on stage that is hilarious and you forget about. Do you record your sets and look back at them?
I do record my sets. I used to listen to them a lot before, but now I perform so often that it's kind of like, muscle memory, and I'll have the set down. And then I don't really want to force it, because a lot of things that are funny in the moment are because of that moment, So like if something happens, I'll just do that. But there is some stuff that has just been fun, and I love to incorporate and move around, with stuff, because I know I like to talk to the crowd too. That's a big thing. That's why I'm out here. I'm out here with my fans, having a good time. I want to make sure people are having a good time. And, if I feel like jumping off the stage and going to talk to somebody, I'm going to do it. I've done that a bunch, where I just jump down and go. But I do this thing where I had every show, which is fun. I put a cookie in my back pocket. I did this randomly. I was on side stage and there was a plate of cookies, and I just put one in my back pocket. And I went out and I was just looked around the crowd, and I looked at somebody who wasn't really, there was kind of the +1, like was kind of in it. There was this guy, this bigger guy, and he just had his arm crossed and he was looking, and his lady he was with was like all smiles. And I was like, "Oh, sir, did you not want to come here tonight?" And he's like, "No, I did." I was like, "Do you know who I am? What were you expecting?" And I named whatever the set was, who was coming next. I think it was like the Phantom of the Opera was playing there. So I was like, "Did you think I was the Phantom?" It's all right, laugh, whatever. And I said, "Come here, it'll be all right." And I jumped down and I took the cookie out of my pocket and I said, "Take this, it's on me." And he lost it. And everybody laughed. And I was like, "This is funny." So now every time I go out, I have a cookie in my pocket. And I do that bit where I find somebody. But that just came from a moment of a plate of cookies before they announced me on the side of the stage. And I was like, this could be fun,
Yeah. And now it's kind of like that thing that can always rescue you if a show or if something's not going great or whatever.
Yeah, and it's a fun way to start too.
Right.
Like it's a fun way to start. It's like, this guy's an idiot. Let's get out there, laugh, have a good time, So
right. Yeah. What's kind of been one of your favorite topics to sort of mind for your stand-up? You got your family, you got the work you do with dogs. You mentioned both of those. You got, stories from the road. Has it been that kind of stuff, or has it been like sort of moments of just observational things in your life currently?
I don't have much observation stuff. It's really story based, and there is observation stuff mixed in. Like I talk about when I was younger, I wasn't really an athlete. Then I talk about my perspective on sports, a little bit, and go weaving it. But it's all kind of combined. But I think the main thread of it all is basically just getting to know about me. So I talk about everything about, I start with my friendship with the guys, and then into parenthood, and then growing up with a crazy Italian mother is a huge thing. My mother was a huge influence. She has millions of stories. I had a crazy Sicilian mother who was, I was her baby boy and would do anything to protect me. So I have so many stories about me as a geeky child and her coming to my rescue, things like that. And then of course, just like I've had a very fortunate life where I've just been in situations where I'm meeting people and stuff, like meeting celebrities and just being in places that have just made these crazy, events. So I like to shed light into that too.
Right. And for those who don't know, where did you grow up, and what was kind of your childhood like in your upbringing?
So I grew up in Staten Island, New York. I went to an all boy Catholic high school. That's where I met the guys. Called Monsignor Farrell.
Me too.
Yeah. And in high school, I was a mathlete and a bowler. Go Strike Force, my peeps. And, so I was really, I was crushing it. So cool, like cat. I was kind of geeky. Yeah, I was kind of geeky. And then I met the guys, started having fun with humor. I used humor to help me against bullying and stuff. And it kind of worked in my favor. And then we started doing improv in high school together. And I found my love for making people laugh, probably junior year, senior year of high school. Took that into college, where I went to college out on Long Island and I had LIU post. And then when I went to college, it was like kind of help with the social skills, the people skills. I think that was the biggest part of it, because school came pretty easy to me. I was pretty smart, so like I didn't have to put a lot there, but my social skills were not great. So I was like really put the time in to be in uncomfortable situations and force myself to come out of my shell a little bit. And I think that really helped. So, but yeah, growing up in Staten Island was a thing.
Yeah. I mean, were you kind of bullied into comedy?
I wouldn't say I was bullied into comedy, because I'll say my house was filled with laughter. My parents were a big influence on me because they both loved to laugh. We all laughed as a family. My mother was, I'm a mix of my mother and my father. I think my father was like the silent assassin. He was a 6'3" big dude who could say something just like one-liners, just loud enough that you heard it. And when you were laughing, people would look at you and be like, I don't know why he's laughing, like that kind of guy. And my mother was like a tornado, like star of the show, took over a room when she came in, didn't even try to, just people gravitated towards her. She had that kind of personality, So I think I'm a kind of a mix of those two.
Got it. And then, so you got sort of that internal comedy mechanics just naturally through how you grew up. Then
and I enjoyed laughing. Like I came from a loving, fun house, I was fortunate enough to have that kind of, growing up. And we had like fun, and I was like, life could be fun. You do this. And then when I was faced with, a little bit of bullying in school, I was like, well, let me just, be myself and try to make them laugh a little bit. And I remember, I was in a situation where one of the football players was like, they were always just like, they were the cool kids, with the all boy, so much testosterone in that room, all boy Catholic high school. There's some boys that were bigger, some that weren't. I was like 104 pounds, in my senior year. So like I would walk through the halls and there was this one big guy, and I would just, one day I just like knocked the books out of his hand. And I said, pick him up. And he goes, I'm sorry, Mr. Gatto. And he just jumped in on the joke, and it was funny. And it did this like reverse thing where like I made him give me piggyback rides to school, to class. Like it was like really funny. Like we had just had fun. And it just really changed the dynamic in the school, I think, where people were just like, there really wasn't really a bullying kind of thing. Like people would just be like, we're all friends here kind of thing. And I was really happy about that. And I just, used humor, and I was like, okay. And then the improv started, and I got better at it because the improv class was like funny, and you worked on being funny and things to say, and really learned the trade. So I think it all helped.
Yeah. And with improv, did you come up with the short form style, the long form style? What was sort of like the first class you took? The first?
Yeah, we did short form. It was all like gamey stuff in high school, and then we tried a long form kind of thing. But then when I performed with the guys, when we formed our comedy troupe in '99, we did a thing called the Armando, which is a long form kind of format. That's what we performed live in our shows. We also played some games and stuff, but then we did that Armando thing, which was fun.
Yeah, is that similar to like a Harold type deal? Or
yeah, it's a looser concept. Yeah, it's a looser. Harold's like more of a structure, and the Armando's a little bit more loose, where you don't necessarily have to tie everything back up together. It's a little less rules, if you will, but it's fun.
And how long did you guys like have to do this in order to like, build confidence and know like you had it? Was there a moment or something where you're like, okay, we got this? Or was it always like ups and downs?
We were so critical of ourselves. We practiced in my mom's basement for 6 months and videotaped ourselves on a tripod. And we used to watch back the tapes. We met 3 times a week for nobody before we even took our first stage. And the first stage we did was a 50-person theater in Manhattan that we basically invited our friends and family to the show. So there was no risk. It was just like our friends and family in a room who already thought we were funny. So yeah, I mean, we took a while before we started.
I don't think I've ever heard of an improv group doing that though.
I mean,
usually it's jumping into the wild and just letting it happen, and sometimes that shows on stage. But
yeah, I think it's everybody's process too. I think everybody's process. Like Sal is very meticulous with, and a very much a fan of comedy, a professional when it comes to comedy. Like he is just a guy that likes to know all the boxes are checked before he gets out there and crushes it. So I think that was part of it too. It was like, we have very different mindsets when it comes to stuff. We laugh all the time, me and Sal, because he's probably the most indecisive person I know. One of the most indecisive people I know when it comes to certain things. And indecisive is the wrong word. Analytical is better. He's very analytical when it comes to things before he makes a decision. And I am very much like, oh, this is the answer. And like as a group, there's 4 of us. So we'd have to like make these decisions as a group. And I would like be like, I get the information and be like, yeah, this is what we'll do. And then Sal would be like, well, wait, can we talk about, and we would talk for hours and whatnot. And then he would be like, yeah, that's right. Let's do that. And I'm like, dude, can you just stop listening to me? Like we laugh about it all the time, but everybody has their own process, So I think that was part of it. Because you got to get there on your own,
Yeah. I mean, and did you like transfer that aspect when you went to do stand up? Like, did you watch a tape back ever? Did you film that? Or was that more his process and the group kind of adopted it?
Yeah, that was his process. Mine was, I was like, all right, I'm getting on stage. Let's do it. So I got out there and I did it, and it went really well, actually. So that helped. I guess if it didn't go well, I would have been like, oh, I should take this. But it went really well. So I think, I think from it, I was more like, what am I going to talk about? What's funny? And when I was writing what I'm going to talk about, I would be more like, that's not right. I'd be very hard on it. And then I would, say it to my friends that I was doing stand up with, and I'd be like, what do you think about it? They're like, that's funny. I'm like, I don't think it is. And I'm like, just try it. And then I would try it, and I'd be like, okay, it's funny, but this other story I have is funnier. And then I would just like, that's what took the hardest part, was like building the hour of like, okay, what's the funniest stuff? to say together. And I got there, but that was the biggest part of my process was what do I think is the funniest the stuff that I could put out there for the time, because people don't know what they're coming to get when they see me, right? They're used to see me on TV in a hidden camera comedy show. They don't necessarily think I'm funny in this arena, right? So when people, I get all the time after, it's so funny. It's like the two backhanded compliments I get all the time is, oh, wow, you're really funny. And then, oh, you're not as fat as you look on TV. And I'm like, thank you. You know what I mean? So it's like so weird. But I think that was part of it for me.
Folks, excuse the interruption, but I just want to say Jolly Good Soda, best way to ring in the kids going back to school. Why not kick back and relax now that the kids are out of the house? Crack yourself a Jolly Good Soda and maybe pour a little hooch in it, celebrate a bit. Or for lunch, you can send your kids off with a root beer, yeah. Get them on a nice little sugar high for recess. They'll be the coolest kid on the block, put it in their lunchbox. And you know what? You could even sweeten the deal for the teacher. Give a fruit punch to your kid to drop it on the teacher's table. They'll appreciate it more than an apple, and might get them off the hook for some of the crap they pulled.
Yep.
You never know. You never know. Make it a Jolly Good, folks. JollyGoodSoda.com. And hey, are you one of the many that put their summer project off and now you're getting to it this fall when the weather's not as nice? So you're like, I might as well be in the garage. Well, you're in luck. Fleet Farm has you covered. Check out their huge selection of power tools and equipment from top brands like Milwaukee and DeWalt and many, many more. They have tools for every job, whether you're a veteran handyman looking for an upgrade or a DIYer finishing up your first home project. And also, I'll say this, they got a lot of great fishing gear for you fall fishing fans. Nothing better than putting a perch on a big old bobber, tossing it out into the big hole in Lake Winnebago and hoping a northern comes in and turns that perch. You got to let the perch go a little bit. You got to let that bobber go. Don't set the hook yet. Wait for it to turn the perch in its mouth. Then boom, set that hook. Colleen is doing the thing where she's rubbing her forehead. So I'm going to end the fishing analogy. And Colleen, finally, Cripescast, how can they support the podcast?
Yeah, so the best 3 ways to support the podcast. Well, first of all, you can just go to cripescast.com and do all of these 3 things. But first, we have new Midwest merch. We're doing new styles pretty much all the time, and there's something for every occasion. So if you go to cripescast.com, click on the merch, you can get anything there. See Charlie on the road, go to cripescast.com again, click on tour. We have updated dates, new shows. When stuff gets sold out, don't go and cry yourself to sleep. There's a good chance we potentially could add a show. So just be on the lookout constantly for that. And then lastly, patreon.com/Charlie Barons to get behind the scenes footage and on the road tour footage and all that type of stuff. Patreon.com/Charlie Barons.
Thank you, Colleen. Now, ladies and gentlemen, back to my conversation with Joe Gatto. When was it with the Improv when you guys got the opportunity for the show? How did you had a successful troupe, and then how did the show come to be? What was sort of the inciting moment for that?
We failed multiple television show pilot things for a while. So we got a pilot. There was a show called It's Your Show, which was a comedy show that was happening in the early 2000s. And it was during a time when the internet was big and everybody was like, how do we put the internet comedy on TV? Like, this is one of the formulas they came up with. It was a show hosted by Carson Daly for Fox for NBC. That was basically America's Funniest Home Videos for sketch groups. They would give you a topic. You would have to make a sketch about it. When you made the sketch, it would go online and then people would vote and you'd win $1,000. At this point, our mailing list was huge. We basically just cooked the pot. We just put up a thing. Our stuff was funny, but we would just put up a thing and then everybody would vote that we asked to from our mailing list to go to this each thing. So we won 10 different of those challenges. So we won $10,000. It was great. And then they were the pilot got picked up and they were doing $100,000 grand prize for 3 of the 3 finalists. And we were one of the finalists. So we had to make a video for it. So we made the video. We won the $100,000, and the pilot never aired. It was a failed pilot it never went to air, and they still had to pay us. So we won $100,000 for no reason. So that didn't go. We were like, unfortunate that we were like, oh, that was going to be a good break for us on TV. But the people who produced the show, the production company, saw our tape and was like, yo, these guys are funny. They should have their own show. And we tried a sketch show. It failed. We tried another one. It failed. And then eventually we came up with the idea with Jokers, and we took that out, and the rest is history.
Yeah. It's tough to get like improv and sketch shows. Those kind of have their day on TV. I feel like it kind of comes and it goes, you know. Did you notice that? Was that part of, like, I feel like, you know, you have the Chappelle Show, you have Key and Peele, Amy Schumer, right, all sort of sketch based shows. Those are hot, and then they kind of go away. Yeah, and they come back again. Yeah, you know,
you go back. If you hit rewind a little bit, you know, you have Mad TV, you have SNL, you know, you have SNL, In Living Color, right? Then it's down, then it comes back up with, you know, Chappelle and all that. So I do think there's an ebb and flow to that stuff. People want it then, but now I think the real home for sketch is really the internet. I really think it is the home, but I don't know if people can watch it on TV as much, but I think sketch really crushes on the internet, which is funny because it was king for a while on television, you know? So, but you never know, like, you know, sketch kind of finds its own format, you know, like you could argue that Nathan For You is a sketch show too, right? Even though it's like a reality kind of thing, you know, but it's kind of really heavily sketch. I mean, you could even argue that Jokers is. I mean, Jokers was heavily like prepared. We wrote jokes, thought things that we thought would be funny. You know, of course, stuff went out the window. Like when somebody walks in with a big hat on, you're like, Joe, you gotta get that hat on. You know what I mean? So but like it's like a lot of the jokes we would think about what could be funny to do in these scenarios, and you know, and we made characters. I have some of my, you know, I'm known for some of my famous characters on the show, you know, that we played, and especially the punishments they got a little bit more like me as Captain Fatbelly is just a straight up sketch, really, you know, in the form of a punishment. So, you know, I think it was just like, how could we be funny? And what we do is we make each other laugh. So that's all we showed America. Like the show was more about friendship than anything for me. It was like people really took to it because you saw people being people. And I always said, even when we did improv back in the day, as long as we're having a good time, people can't have a bad time watching people having a good time. And I firmly believe that. So I carry that throughout my approach to comedy all the time. Like if I'm having fun up there and I'm having a good time, I think it's infectious, you know?
Yeah, the audience is in the mood of the performer, kind of a
for
thing.
Sure.
And you guys are also, you know, one of the masters of like found comedy, like what you said, where a hat comes in, it all goes out the window. You know, is that just your improv background that really makes you guys that great at that, or is there some other dynamic?
Definitely that, but it's definitely the dynamic. Like I know, like when we thought of something, I'd be like, oh, Sal would do this funny, or like, oh, let me write this for Q. Like there's something about knowing what your friends do funny, right? Yeah. So like when it was like whatever, like so if you think of some of the classic things we've done, you put somebody else in it, I don't know if it's going to hit as hard. It wouldn't be as good. I think we did a really good job of like, quote unquote typecasting, like who should get what or what we should do to people, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's similar to like a sitcom that you love, like whatever the situation, you sort of imagine the main character of that sitcom, what they would say in that situation.
For sure.
So you guys, your characters are just so
Yeah, you're writing for George. You're writing for Kramer. What do you know? It's going to be completely different, you know? So it's like, I think, you know what it is. If you want somebody to be, you know, knock weird out of the park, you're picking Murray. Like the guy just knows how to be creepy and sell it and just like be like odd and not break. Like he's like good like that, like being odd, you know, but you know, if I come off as odd, I come off a little bit more crazy where he comes off like very convincing that he's weird, you know, like, so I don't know if that's people's personalities and whatnot, but it's a little bit like, you know what it is. Like I would have an idea for something and there'd be times where we would be like, okay, you know what? Because we've come up with punishments in the beginning and be like, all right, these are the punishments. And then we'll just slot it out. You know, we know everybody's going to lose X amount. And then when it's time to go, we'll do it. And then when you write a punishment, it's like, we look at them like, all right, we don't have enough for Q. So we would tell Q, for instance, we were like, all right, we don't have enough for Q. So we would tell Q to come in at noon and we would come in at 10. So we would sit with the writers for 2 hours, just thinking about ways that what could Q do funny and what would he not like to do? And like there's so many different aspects of it, you know? And then we'd come up with, you know, some of the great stuff. Like I still think no one could have pulled that stopping the tram at Universal Studios as good as Q did. Like that was unbelievable. That was so hard to do. And he just wore it. And like, I don't know if any of us could have been able to do it as well as he did, or as much as he did. Like it was crazy.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, that has me cracking up. It makes me think I'm actually going to get some, we have a couple audience questions, but while we're getting to that, I'm curious myself. I mean, you guys have season after season after season of an amazing show. Do you have like, is there a moment that stands out as your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. I mean, I did over 300 episodes of TV. Over a decade of my life is that I'm very proud of the product and being part of that legacy. And making that show what it was. I think I will say my biggest gamble that paid off and nobody really believed that it would work was the when we mind fucked Sal for his punishment, where he didn't know if he was getting punished or not. So we had this idea. I had this idea, like Sal is his own worst enemy, where I know Sal gets in his own head. And I was like, it could be really funny if we just send Sal into a friggin' tornado in his own mind. So we did this thing where we were filming a challenge in Union Square Park in the promenade where we always film. And we just had all these little things come, and we just keep going to Sal. Well, it's your punishment. No, it's not. Yes, it is. No, it's not. And we just kept flipping it on him, and you could watch him wind up and just go. And it was one of those things where we had a code with each other, especially by I think that was in the 6th or 7th season, but whatever season that was, like right after the 3rd season or 2nd season, when we all knew what we were doing, we would just be like, guys, it's going to work. Let me do it. And you would just look each other in the eye. If somebody said that, end the conversation. It was really by committee of everything. But there'd been times when Q would be like, let me do it. And I'd be like, okay. Like it's everybody's show, right? So the punishments were always hard because everybody had to be on board. And Q and I were just going back and forth. He's like, how is it funny? I'm like, it'll be funny. He's like, you're just going to have a guy come with cement and you think Sal's going to think that he has to step in cement? I'm like, yeah. He's going to have nice sneakers on. He's a sneaker whore right now. So he's going to have great shoes on. And what does he say in the cut? He's like, oh my God, I can't stop. I have these shoes. And I'm like when he said that, Q just looked at me and he was like, you're right. And he jumped in and we had a blast. Like it was such a good time to do it. And I think that's one of the ones I'm most proud of because it also speaks to how well we knew each other. It speaks to what the show was really about. That one's one of my favorites. And the other one that I couldn't believe we pulled off was the long con on Sal, where he really thought he was going to get arrested for grabbing that nose. On the so he thought we had filmed a challenge, and because a lot of behind the scenes stuff is crazy, we had filmed a challenge where we were playing I'm gonna get your nose, and Sal jumped up on a federal building and grabbed the nose of a statue. We all laughed. It aired 2 months later in the production office. There was a letter came in, and our showrunner came in and he said, guys, he's like, I have to go to a deposition because we trespassed on public property and put it on air. And we're like, what? And he showed us the letter and we were like, again, the writers were like, this is stupid. Don't worry about it. Blah, blah, blah. He's like, I know. He's like, I know it's dumb. But I got to go, whatever. So he leaves the room. The next day I'm in for a meeting. I did a lot of the production. So I was there a lot, like getting in there, talking about scheduling and all that. That's what I loved. So I'm in there. He gets a letter. Yeah. He's like, hey, they called off the thing. They called off the meeting. And I was like, and I just went, no, they didn't. I said, they didn't call off the meeting. This is going to be a Sal punishment. And he's like, what? I was like, we're going to make Sal think he's going to pay a fine. And he's like, what? I was like, yeah. I was like, we're going to make this a whole dragged out thing over a year. And then we'll make him go next season. Because we had just got renewed for the next season. So I was like, I knew it had to sit forever. Like, and we just kept dropping hints about it. Like every 2 months, I'd be like, oh, and he'd come in and he'd be like, Pete was great. He'd be on like a fake phone call and he'd hang up and like, oh. I'm like, oh, what's the matter? He's like, this stupid thing. I got to go. He's like, now they want Sal to come. And so I was like, what? I'm not going. And I was like, all right. And then he's like, I know. I told him that you can't go, blah, blah, blah. And then he did this whole thing where he's like, they made me submit the production schedule. They know we're off this day. He's like, we got to go. And so we talked Sal into going. We set up the room like completely. We used all sorts of different hidden cameras that we never used because we knew Sal would be able to find them. So we literally like bought the next level up of equipment that like we knew Sal wouldn't find. There was a camera in her water bottle. Like it was insane. And the ladies and it went exactly as planned. So I was proud of that because that was a long con and it could have got messed up at any time.
Exactly. I love that. I mean, the nice thing is as the show progressed, you guys knew each other better and could do those kind of more intricate things. But also when you're filming out there in the wild, people are recognizing you. So did that, create more barriers? How'd you get around that?
The hardest part for that was we could tell when people recognize us. That's not a problem. Like you could tell people turn to a robot and they're like, oh, and we see them on camera coming a mile away before they even see us. So we'll see the moment when they recognize Sal and they're trying to play it off because Sal doesn't see it. And they'll walk up to like the burger counter and be like, oh, 1 cheeseburger, please. Like they turn into a robot. They don't even know how to act, and you could tell. But the hardest part for us was like when we're in the park and we have somebody on the hook and we're nailing it, somebody comes flying over and it's like, Joe, can we look at a picture? and you get recognized by a bystander. So what we had to start doing was our production team would form a barrier around us, like literally a dance circle. It felt like where you have this person locked in and everybody's pretending to be doing something around us. And if somebody came in, they would like swoop in and grab and be like, shh, we're filming. So that was like, that was
like
a hard
the
thing.
Truman Show.
It really is. It really is. It was like that. Yeah, it's crazy.
You guys got the hot dog vendor on, is just a PA named Larry.
That's
from
exactly
Michigan,
right.
You know?
Yeah. It was right. We would like send them
that.
out, flock them out. Like Shay would just go like tackle people. It'd be great.
Do you have any sort of, when you're not working, when you're not on the road doing anything, do you have any like guilty pleasures, like hobbies or just things that you
video games, Lego sets.
Oh, you're a Lego guy, huh?
Yeah, I do. I like Legos. I have like 5 unopened boxes right now because I was moving back into the house and I had stuff at the apartment and then but I forgot all these ones I bought. I just didn't have time to do it because I was on the road so much. So now that I'm back at the house, I like moved it back in and Bessie, my wife, was like, she's like, and I had like 5 boxes of Lego. She's like, are we going to do these together? I'm like, well, I bought them for me, but we could do them together because yeah. I mean, I have one of my favorite ones right here. Look, I'll show you.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, the Lego Adidas. This is one of my faves that they did.
Oh my God.
Really cool, right?
That's incredible.
Yeah, this is one of my faves.
How many Legos were involved in that one?
That one was, I forget. I think it was like 1,075 or something like that. I mean, I have when I'm sitting on, I did the Ghostbusters thing. I did the Sesame Street, I did the Ecto one. I did that, but I have a typewriter, which I'm really excited to do. It's like a typewriter one they did.
Yeah.
I had the Home Alone house that we put out during Christmas. We did that together, which is fun. And my kids are getting a little older now. My daughter wants to start doing them with us, but they're a little too out of her range.
So did you get started doing Legos when you were a kid, or where'd that come from?
That was my thing. I was super creative. I wanted to be an architect when I first started, when I was young. And then my dad made me be an accountant, but yeah, I really liked Legos. Legos was probably my favorite toy growing up. And now that my kids love, like my son's obsessed with them too. I had 2 toys I love, Legos and Pipeworks. Do you know what Pipeworks were? Pipeworks were these PVC pipes that had connectors and you could build whatever you wanted out of these things. Those are my 2 favorite.
Yeah. What? No. What were those called? They were called they weren't Lincoln Logs, but it was.
No, they were bigger. You make it like make a go-kart. It had like a wheel in them and stuff. Like you could sit and like for humans. Yeah, they were bigger.
Tinker Toys.
Tinker toys. Well, no, yeah, but no, but they were huge. Like they were the pipes.
It's more of a badass version.
Yeah, it was like you could make like a sword and a shield. Like it was like
nice
play toys. Yeah, you can make like a climbing thing and stuff. It was basically like little. I don't know. I think they were safe, but my kids have a version of them. I found them on Instagram, and like I got a version of them for them. They love them.
So does that kind of scratch that early childhood passion of yours? That scratch that itch, or do you?
Yeah, I mean that's the best thing about kids is you relive your childhood with them. You show them your favorites. My daughter's just getting into movies. She loves movies, and we started watching stuff together now because she's like 8. So we just literally watch like I show them a lot of the classic Disney they hadn't seen before, but then we just like for the first one, she wanted to watch something scary, but not too scary because she likes horror. She likes scary. Like she was Pennywise for Christmas, for Halloween.
Yeah.
For Christmas, that'd be weird. But she wanted to watch something scary. So we watched Ghostbusters, the original, and she loved it. It was really cool to watch that with her. She's 8. So it was really fun. She got freaked out at a couple things like the librarian scene and when Slimer comes at Bill Murray. Those 2 things got her a little bit, but she did really good. She liked that. So.
Is that the one Gozar's in?
Yeah. She didn't mind. She didn't mind the dog. No.
Okay.
Two's the guy in the painting. What's his name?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, but the first one, she didn't mind it. She's not scared of that stuff. And we also watched. I couldn't believe she wanted it. We watched Godzilla vs King Kong, like the new one, and like she loved it. She loved it. And I was like, that's that Godzilla. Those fights are kind of scary. And she was like all into it. So it was pretty cool.
That's great. You ever do any practical jokes on your kids?
No. I don't bring my work home for me or Bessie. It's like not what we do. Yeah. I don't really, I'm not really like, I'm more like, with my friends, I'm more of a gotcha kind of guy, but my like pranks aren't like, I'm not mean spirited with my stuff. Like I like to do stuff like that. I know that they're going to laugh too, or be annoyed at maybe the annoyance, which will make them laugh. That thing that you could do with your friends where they're annoyed at you, but then they can't help but laugh at what happened.
Right.
So like, that's really my thing. And I'm a little brother. I have two older sisters, and my favorite Mark is my middle sister Carla. I annoy her like nobody's business, and she like hates to love it. If that makes sense. We have a great time together.
Yeah.
And I see she has two boys, and I see her boys like emulate that, and I'm like, we've trained them well. She's like, you're such a pain in the ass, uncle.
There's something about having a sister that gives you just a pass to be a jackass.
100%, 100%. Yeah,
I've got 8 of them, so I'm well accustomed in that.
How many brothers?
Scenario? I got 3 brothers, 8 sisters. So
all from the same
deal,
all from the same,
all from the same deal. All same parents, the whole deal, man. I'm 1 of 12. Yeah,
that's unbelievable. Where are you in the lineup?
Crazy.
Where are you in the lineup?
Second oldest.
You're the 12, oldest? Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I mean, yeah. So you're as the youngest, I know your type.
Yep, that's got it. That's me. Mom, stop it. See, I win.
You got any phrases that like sort of Staten Island phrases? Like there's a lot of Midwest phrases that we kind of say, like bubbler or screwed the pooch or, you got a bag of bags, culturally speaking, what kinds of things do you kind of bring from your home out into the world? And people are like, the hell is that?
I think 3 sayings probably. What's the action? Is a big thing I always say when I'm talking about like what's the discount, how long's the wait. It can mean whatever. I'm gonna go up to like a host, like what's the action here? And like how long's the wait? It's like what's the action? Is I always say. I grew up in Italian, with my uncles and everything. So on the brooch is a big one. When it's like something's free, it's on the arm, it's on the brooch. It's like it's on the brooch, and then I call money scatol. So like I mean, like
what do you call it?
Scatol. It means like escarole is the Italian leaf green, and it's called scatol is a slang term for it. So I'm like, you got the scatol for us? So I got to stop and get some scatol if we're going to the casino. Like that kind of thing.
Those are great.
Yeah.
Those sound like a lot more cool than I think we call like a water fountain a bubbler.
Oh, I got you. If you're looking for something like that, I don't think I had anything too weird like that. Yeah.
I mean, the skadol. Did I say that right? Skadol.
Skadol. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You could even call it skad if you want. You'd bring it down to skad.
I love that. All right. I know you got a hard out here, so I just want to rip through a few more of these audience questions we have. What was your first job?
I scooped ice cream at the Big Apple Bazaar for my dad's friend, Tony, who paid me cash under the table, $4 an hour.
Nice.
And then my first real job was at Party City. I was a stock boy for 4 years at the Party City there in Staten Island.
Oh, nice. Okay. All right. Did you have any with that money under the table? How long did that whole scenario last?
It was a summer. It was
gig. Just one summer.
My first summer. Yeah. Okay. 14-year-old gig.
Got it. Who were your comedic influences growing up?
Mel Brooks for sure. Hands down. I think Mel Brooks. Like I liked comedic movies. Really, I was like a movie guy, like I told you. I would say Tim Allen too, because me and my dad used to watch Home Improvement, and his was one of the first stand-up hours I remember, like watching with my dad. I would say him. Richard Jenny was another one that I watched. I would say Looney Tunes as well. I would say those that kind of comedy, slapsticky kind of physical stuff definitely was it. Airplane, of course.
Airplane's
huge,
a great one.
Oh my God, yeah. And Zucker is like a good friend of ours now too, and I can't believe that he's such a cool dude.
That's yeah, isn't that crazy to get to a point where like your hero becomes one of your buddies?
A buddy, yeah, like texting me on my birthday. It's like crazy.
I want to touch on sort of the work you do with animal rescue or dogs specifically. Like, where did that all come from? What's the story there?
Yeah, so last November we launched Gatto Pups and Friends, my nonprofit out here in New York, and we went from basically a hobby of just rescuing dogs to being like, how can we make a bigger impact? And we were like, you know what, we could start up and start finding homes for these dogs. That's not just our house. So we started adoptions. We actually just did our 36th adopt out yesterday. We got 2 more going today. So it's been going really well. And it came from basically, we had bought our first dog, Cannoli, 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. And she had a lot of health problems. And within a year, I had to spend $4,000 on surgeries to fix her. And we it made Bessie go down this rabbit hole of like puppy mills and whatnot, and educate ourselves on, that whole thing, and then shelter animals and the put down rate and no kill shelters and what they go through. And, so we got our first rescue, Biscotti, who's my favorite dog. Don't tell the other ones. And she just changed our world, like rescue. Like she was super appreciative. Like when we met her, she was on a leash with her tail between her legs. Nobody could really go near her. She would growl or not happy, not like aggressive growl, just like not happy, tail between her legs. So we were filming in Manhattan, and Animal Haven's a big organization in the city, and they had Biscotti. She showed me a picture of her online. I'm like, she's super adorable. And I was like, can we get a second dog? I don't know. We'll bring Canola down. We'll meet her. So we were going to go meet her, but I was filming in the city. And it was the one day we actually got shut down by the police because somebody complained. We were playing shoe shiners, and somebody complained. We had to show our permit. We had it. And they were like, look, they're like, these people aren't going away. You guys you got to go today. So we just, because we were there all the time and we didn't want to lose the permit of the park. So I was like, okay, we'll just go. We already got good enough turns. So we left, and I called Bessie, and I was like, hey, I'm 2 blocks from Animal Haven. They close at 2. Grab Cannoli, come in 2 hours. Grab Cannoli, come down here. We'll let them meet. And as soon as they met, their tails went up. They were like sisters. They were great. I was like, all right, we'll take her home. So we took Biscotti home, and within 24 hours, she climbed on my lap and like fell asleep on me. And I was like, oh my God, this is the same dog. Like it was like, you could tell it was happy. And I was like, okay, this is a calling here. So we just started doing it, and it's been fantastic. I started out here on Long Island, our rescue. We have a sanctuary in the home. We have an adoption center in town here in Glen Head. And it's just fantastic. It's been really, really, really good work. And my kids are part of it. My family's part of it. My house is full of love and dogs. Like there's nothing like coming home to a pack of dogs, so it's really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Is there a way for people to get involved on their own with it?
For sure. Yeah. Gatto Pups and Friends is the name of it. So you go to gattopupsandfriends.com. We accept volunteers, donations of, blankets and whatnot, monetary. And then just follow us on Instagram and just share our dogs. Gatto Pups and Friends is the handle on Instagram. And if the power of social media when it comes to dogs is phenomenal. So just sharing posts and liking and just sharing, getting us more followers just makes our mission easier. So
awesome. And last question, the last minute we have left. What is the recipe for the perfect practical joke?
The recipe?
And there's only a minute. Yeah.
Okay. I would say the best thing is hold your cards close to your chest. I think the more people that know that you're trying to do something, the easier it is for it to get ruined. So I've pulled stuff off over years without anybody even knowing it. That seems like it's just for you, but it'll have its moment. Like I was signing up Sal, and I never told anybody, but I was signing up Sal for every mailing list I came across between the years of 1999 and 2009. And like literally, like if you think about how many mailing lists you come across, like I would use his phone number home and his email address, and like anything from like you're out in a bookstore and it says, hey, want to find out about our weekly newsletter right here. And then or calling in to places to get, like I called Sealy, I called Tempur-Pedic Mattresses, and I got him a home kit sent to his house. I signed up as him, like one of these. And I still remember I did it for like a decade. And he caught me when we were filming the pilot for Jokers. We were in a bar where we were doing this thing. It never aired the joke we did there, but we were doing this thing in this called Johnny Utah's. It was this bar with a mechanical bull, and we were there doing a punishment for Mert, and it didn't work out, so we didn't do it. But I was signing him up. The shot girl was going around and was like, hey, do you want to sign up to find out about our special every week? I'm like, absolutely. And I'm signing up, and Sal walked over to talk to me. He looked down and saw it. And it was a Kaiser Sose moment where he put it all together. He goes, hey, that's my mattress. And he looked at me, and he went, and it just all clicked, and his mouth dropped. He turned white, and he looked at me. He goes, did you send me a Tempur-Pedic mattress? I just lost it. And I lost it. And Q came over. And I was like, I just told Sal about signing him up every email. And we just recapped it for like 20 minutes. And it was very funny. So I would say that's the number one rule. The long con is always the best.
The best payoff.
Put in the time. Put in the time.
Put in the time. Exactly. So, well, thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. Huge fan. I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you on the road sometime soon.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, if you want to find out where I'm touring, just go to Joe Gatto Official, or just follow my Instagram at Joe_Gatto, and you can find out all my tour dates. Come on out, have fun, laugh a little bit, because life sucks. We just got to suck harder, and that's the rule.
I love it, man.
All right, buddy.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, buddy.
All right, take care.
Thank you.
Talk soon. Bye-bye. All right, that is it for this week's episode of the Cripescast. Huge thanks to Joe for coming on the show. Make sure you follow Gatto Pups and Friends at gattopupsandfriends.com. Follow Joe anywhere he is. He's Joe Gatto Official or Joe_Gatto. And then you can also go at Gatto Pups and Friends. You can find them on social media as well. You can follow Cripescast at Cripescast anywhere you get your podcast. Patreon.com/Charlie Barron's behind the scenes. First look at concert tickets. Some crowd work from the shows. We got all that up there. Check it out if you like. And thank you guys for listening. Colleen, thank you very much for doing your EP work. Thanks to Hannah Milos for editing. And everybody enjoy the fall. And we'll see you next week.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.